20. Worst drug addiction in R&B history. Behind the glitz platinum records and soulful ballads lies a dark truth about R&B's biggest stars. Addiction has destroyed some of the most gifted voices in music history. From cocaine-fueled downfalls to alcohol abuse that ended in tragedy, fame often became the very poison that silenced their brilliance. These aren't just cautionary tales, they're heartbreaking stories of legends who gave us timeless hits while fighting demons off stage. Which star's struggle shocked you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe to Legends of Black Excellence for more untold stories behind the music. Aaron Hall. Aaron Hall's story is one of extraordinary talent overshadowed by private battles that nearly silenced his golden voice. Rising to fame in the late 1980s as the charismatic lead of Guy Ha New Jack Swing and Groove Me, Piece of My Love and Don't Be Afraid. His stage persona was magnetic, his voice both gritty and tender, and for a moment it seemed nothing could stop him from becoming one of R&B's greatest icons. Yet behind the bright lights, Hall struggled with the heavy burden of fame. Industry insiders whispered about his growing reliance on substances to cope with stress, the endless touring, and the pressure to stay relevant as music shifted in the 1990s. Unlike many of his peers, Aaron rarely spoke publicly about his addiction, but his erratic behavior during performances hinted at deeper issues. His struggles coincided with the decline of New Jack Swing's popularity, leaving him vulnerable in an industry that often discards its pioneers once trends change. Do you think the industry does enough to support artists when the spotlight fades, or are they left to battle their demons alone? Despite the turbulence, Aaron Hall's talent never wavered. He released solo projects like The Truth 1993, which produced the chart-topping ballad I Miss You. Even when personal demons clouded his path, fans and collaborators spoke of his unmatched ability to pour pure emotion into every lyric. Hall's voice remained a time capsule of an era when R&B was experimenting and reinventing itself, and his influence can still be heard in artists who followed. In more recent years, Hall has resurfaced in nostalgia tours, reuniting with Guy and reconnecting with longtime supporters. His survival is in itself a victory proof that though addiction may wound deeply, it does not always define the final chapter. Aaron Hall's journey reminds us that the voices we idolize are human, vulnerable, and fragile, yet capable of redemption. His legacy in R&B is secure not just for his music, but for the cautionary lessons his life continues to teach. Jodeci. In the early 1990s, Jodeci explode KC A Face, Devontae Swing, and Mr. Dalvin Forever My Lady. A91 went triple platinum and gave fans timeless ballads like Stay Come and Talk to Me and the title track itself. With leather outfits, tattoos, and a swagger that screamed rebellion, Jodeci redefined what an R&B group could look and sound like. But behind the scenes, the group was spiraling. The pressures of fame, endless touring, and sudden wealth collided with the temptations of drugs and alcohol. KC and JoJo in particular became infamous for their struggles. On more than one occasion, they collapsed on stage due to alcohol abuse, turning live performances into tragic reminders of the toll addiction was taking. Their struggles weren't hidden. They played out in public, damaging not only their health but also the stability of the group. Devontae Swing also wrestled with personal demons, and tensions among the members grew as substance use clouded their once unbreakable bond. When you see a group like Jodeci fall apart because of addiction, do you think the fame is worth the price they paid? Despite the chaos, Jodeci's influence never faded. They pioneered a sound that blended gospel-influenced vocals with hip-hop-inspired beats, paving the way for future acts like Dru Hill, Jagged Edge, and even early Usher. Even in their darkest moments, their music remained anthems of love, lust, and heartbreak that resonated across generations. In the 2000s, KSI and JoJo attempted to rebuild their careers as a duo, releasing heartfelt songs like All My Life, which became a global hit. In recent years, the group has reunited for nostalgia tours, and while the voices aren't as pristine as they once were, the raw emotion remains intact. Jodetsi's story is both a cautionary tale of how addiction can dismantle greatness and a testament to the resilience of artists who refuse to be forgotten. Their legacy in R&B is untouchable, even if the scars of addiction will forever shadow their history. Erykah Badu. When Erykah Badu burst onto the scene in the late 1990s, she was unlike anyone the R&B world had seen before. Her debut album, Bedouin 1997, went triple platinum and earned her 2 Grammy Awards, introducing listeners to a sound that was both futuristic and deeply rooted in soul traditions. Songs like On and Next Lifetime showcased her distinct voice and thoughtful lyrics, setting her apart as the leading figure of the emerging is. With her head rap's bohemian style and fearless individuality, Badu quickly became not only a musician, but also a cultural icon. Behind the artistry, though, she explored paths that few mainstream artists would openly admit. Badu has been candid about her experimentation with substances like marijuana and psychedelics in her early years, saying they helped open her mind and creativity. While she never spiraled into public addiction scandals, her openness about these experiences made headlines and sparked debates about the fine line between artistic exploration and potential self-destruction. Her ability to channel those experiences into her music transformed vulnerability into strength, making her an enduring voice in both art and activism. Do you think artists who admit to experimenting with drugs should be praised for their honesty or criticized for possibly influencing younger fans? As her career matured, Badu turned toward holistic living, embracing meditation, veganism, and spiritual practices. She became an advocate for conscious lifestyle choices, balancing her earlier experiences with a philosophy centered on healing and mindfulness. Her concerts are more than just performances, they feel like spiritual gatherings where music, activism, and culture intertwine. Badu has also navigated controversy from bold statements in interviews to unapologetic performances. Yet she remains respected for her authenticity. She is proof that while many R&B stars have been consumed by addiction, others like her have transformed their brushes with drugs into a lesson of growth. Today, Erykah Badu continues to tour globally, inspire new generations of artists, and redefine what it means to be a soul singer in the modern age. Her story stands not as one of destruction, but as an example of how self-awareness can turn potential downfalls into lifelong resilience. Nate Dogg. In the world of hip-hop and R&B, no voice was as instantly recognizable as Nate Dogg's. Crewface. Regulate the next episode area codes and lay low. By the late 1990s, he had appeared on over 40 charting singles, earning the unofficial crown as the king of hooks. Yet fame came with a heavy price. Life in the fast lane of West Coast hip-hop culture exposed Nate Dogg to relentless partying, alcohol, and drugs. While he rarely spoke publicly about his struggles, those close to him admitted that years of hard living began to erode his health. By 2007, his body could no longer bear the strain. He suffered a massive stroke that left him partially paralyzed, followed by a second stroke in 2008. His once powerful voice, the voice that had defined an era, was silenced. Do you believe the lifestyle of fame makes addiction almost inevitable? Or could Nate Dogg's tragedy have been prevented with better support? Despite his health battles, fans never forgot him. Even when confined to a wheelchair, his presence was felt through the countless hits he had blessed with his voice. Tragically, in March 2011, Nate Dogg passed away at just 41 years old due to complications from multiple strokes. The loss was deeply felt not only in R&B but also across hip-hop, where he had bridged the two genres seamlessly. Nate Dogg's story is one of brilliance and tragedy. He never released a blockbuster solo career yet. His voice defined an entire generation of music. His hooks turned songs into classics. His style influenced future R&B crooners, and his death remains a sobering reminder of the toll that addiction and an unbalanced lifestyle can take. To this day, when fans hear the smooth opening lines of Regulate, they are reminded of the man whose voice will forever be the heartbeat of West Coast music. Gerald Levert. Born in 1966 in Cleveland, Ohio, Gerald Levert carried soul in his blood. As the son of Eddie Levert, lead singer of the legendary O'Jays, Gerald grew up surrounded by music and the demands of show business. By the 1980s, he had formed the group Levert with his brother Sean and friend Mark Gordon. Their hits like Casanova, which became a top 5 Billboard single in 1987, put them on the map as a new force in R&B. Gerald's voice, rich, emotional, and full of power, stood out immediately. Transitioning into a solo career in the 1990s, he gave fans heartfelt ballads such as Baby Where and I'd Give Anything. To many, he was one of the most passionate vocalists of his generation. But behind the spotlight, Gerald struggled with pain, both physical and emotional. Years of touring and performing left him with chronic health issues. To cope, he turned to prescription painkillers and medications for anxiety. Tragically, those same pills would contribute to his downfall. In November 2006, Gerald Levert was found dead in his home at just 40 years old. The coroner's report revealed an accidental overdose of 6 different prescription drugs, including Vicodin, Percocet, and Xanax. The news sent shockwaves through the music world as fans and fellow artists mourned a man whose voice had defined so many moments of love and heartbreak. Do you think the pressure to constantly perform and stay relevant in the industry pushes artists toward dangerous coping mechanisms? Gerald's passing was a painful reminder of the dangers of prescription drug misuse, even for those not caught in the stereotypes of street drugs. Yet his music remains timeless. His ability to blend vulnerability with strength in his songs continues to inspire both listeners and new artists. Beyond his own career, Gerald also wrote and produced for icons like Barry White, Patti LaBelle, and Stephanie Mills, leaving fingerprints all over R&B history. Though his life ended far too soon, Gerald Levert's legacy is secure. His voice still resonates on the radio. His songs still comfort broken hearts. And his story serves as both inspiration and warning. He remains not just Eddie Levert's son, but a legend in his own right, proof that soul once given to the world never truly dies. Teena Marie. Few artists in R&B history broke barriers the way Teena Marie did. Born Mary Christine Brockert in 1956, she defied stereotypes as a white woman who earned the respect of audiences in a genre dominated by black artists. Dubbed the Ivory Queen, her voice carried raw power and authenticity that silenced doubters. Signed to Motown in the late 1970s, she became a protege of funk legend Rick James, and together they created unforgettable tracks like Fire and Desire. By the 1980s, Teena had cemented her legacy with hits such as Square Biz Lover Girl and Portuguese Love. Her unique ability to blend funk, jazz, and soul made her one of the most versatile singers of her time. But fame for Teena came with a price. Behind her confident stage persona, she grappled with personal challenges and substance struggles. Friends and insiders noted her reliance on painkillers and her battle with the demands of relentless touring. While she kept much of her private life hidden, whispers about her use of prescription drugs and other substances shadowed her career. Unlike many of her peers, Teena managed to avoid major public scandals, yet the toll on her body and spirit was undeniable. Do you think artists who break barriers like Teena Marie face even greater pressure to prove themselves, sometimes at the cost of their health? Despite these hardships, Teena never stopped creating. In the 2000s, she experienced a career resurgence with the release of La Doña 2004, which debuted at number 6 on the Billboard 200, a rare feat for a veteran R&B artist. Her fans celebrated her resilience and ability to reinvent herself across decades. Tragically, on December 26, 2010, Teena Marie passed away at the age of 54. Her death was ruled the result of natural causes, but many believe years of health battles and substance issues contributed to her decline. The loss devastated the music community, but her legacy endures through the countless artists she influenced. Maxwell. Born Gerald Maxwell Rivera in 1973, Maxwell emerged in the mid-1990s as one of the architects of the neo-soul movement, a genre blending classic R&B with jazz funk and hip-hop influences. His debut album, Urban Hang Suite 1996, became a critical masterpiece, eventually going platinum and earning him a devoted following. With timeless hits like Ascension, Don't Ever Wonder, Fortunate and Against Maxwell was hailed for his falsetto-rich vocals and his ability to merge sensuality with emotional depth. He wasn't just another R&B singer, he was crafting a new language for love and vulnerability. Yet at the height of his success, Maxwell did something few artists dared to do. He stepped away. In the early 2000s, after releasing 2 successful albums and earning Grammy nominations, Maxwell disappeared from the spotlight for nearly 8 years. While fans speculated wildly about his absence, the truth was that he had been grappling with the immense pressures of fame exhaustion and a need to reclaim his mental and emotional well-being. Unlike many R&B peers who publicly spiraled due to drugs or alcohol, Maxwell chose solitude and healing, but his retreat was no less dramatic. Would you rather see your favorite artist take a long break to protect their health or push through the pain to keep delivering new music? When Maxwell returned with Black Summer's Night in 2009, it was clear the hiatus had given him new strength. The album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, won 2 Grammy Awards, and reminded fans why his artistry had been so deeply missed. He followed it with Without 2016, proving that his voice and vision had only grown sharper with time. Unlike many stories in R&B, Maxwell's is one of survival and careful self-preservation. While he has admitted to experimenting with substances earlier in life, he avoided the downward spiral that consumed so many of his peers by prioritizing his well-being. His journey shows that resilience doesn't always mean fighting addiction publicly. It can also mean quietly stepping back to preserve one's gift. Keith Sweat. Born in Harlem, New York in 1961, Keith Sweat didn't begin as a superstar. Before fame, he worked as a stockbroker assistant, balancing numbers by day while singing in clubs by night. That persistence paid off when he became one of the key architects of the New Jack Swing era, a sound that fused traditional R&B with hip-hop beats. His debut album, Make It Last Forever 1987, went triple platinum and catapulted him into stardom. With heartfelt ballads like Iowa Nobody and Twisted Sweat brought vulnerability and passion to the forefront of R&B, ultimately selling over 15,000. But behind the romance-filled lyrics was a man struggling with the same pressures that crushed many of his peers. Fame came fast, and with it endless touring schedules, label expectations, and the demand to remain relevant as the music industry shifted. Insiders and close friends often whispered about Sweat's reliance on alcohol and substances as ways of coping. Though he rarely spoke publicly about addiction, he did admit in interviews that the stress of celebrity life sometimes pushed him toward unhealthy choices. Do you think success in music is worth it if the cost is an artist's health and peace of mind? Despite personal challenges, Sweat's career showed remarkable resilience. While the popularity of New Jack Swing faded in the late 1990s, he proved adaptable, collaborating with emerging talents and even hip-hop artists like Snoop Dogg. His work as a mentor and producer helped launch groups such as Silk and Cut Close, further cementing his legacy as more than just a singer. He was a builder of R&B's future. Recognition eventually came in the form of the Soul Train Lifetime Achievement Award, celebrating his 3 decades of contributions. Even now, Sweat continues to perform across the globe, his concerts filled with nostalgic fans who still sing along to every lyric. Keith Sweat's story is not one of destruction, but of perseverance. He faced temptation, stumbled at times, but managed to hold on to both his career and his voice. His journey shows that while addiction and pressure may haunt even the greatest talents, resilience and reinvention can turn struggle into survival. In many ways, Keith Sweat remains the embodiment of R&B's emotional core, timeless, enduring, and still able to make audiences feel every note. R. Kelly. Born Robert Sylvester Kelly in Chicago in 1967, R. Kelly rose from humble beginnings to become one of the most successful R&B artists of all time. With a career spanning over 2 decades, he sold more than 75 million records worldwide, earned 3 Grammy Awards, and dominated charts with classics like I Believe I Can Fly Ignition Remix, Step in the Name of Love, A Bump and Grind. His music was everywhere. Weddings, graduations, radio stations, making him one of the most influential voices of the 1990s and 2000s. His ability to blend gospel-inspired vocals with sensual R&B rhythms earned him the title, the King of R&B. But beneath the fame was a deeply troubling reality. While addiction in his case was not limited to drugs and alcohol, Kelly exhibited a destructive addiction to sex and control, often fueled by alcohol and a toxic lifestyle. Reports of erratic behavior, escalating substance use, and his inability to separate personal demons from his public persona began surfacing in the early 2000s. As years went on, shocking allegations of abuse, manipulation, and exploitation of underage girls overshadowed his musical accomplishments. Can an artist's music ever be separated from their personal actions, or does their behavior forever taint their legacy? In 2021, after years of speculation and investigations, R. Kelly was convicted on charges including racketeering and sex trafficking. He was sentenced to 30 years in federal prison, his fall from grace becoming one of the most dramatic in entertainment history. What had once been a celebrated career now stood as a grim reminder of unchecked power addiction and abuse. Despite his crimes, R. Kelly's influence on R&B is undeniable. He wrote and produced for icons like Michael Jackson, Celine Dion, and Aaliyah, leaving behind songs that continue to live in cultural memory. Yet his legacy is irreparably tarnished, and many former fans now struggle to reconcile the brilliance of his music with the darkness of his personal life. R. Kelly's story is not just about talent undone by addiction. It is about how fame, when mixed with excess and lack of accountability, can destroy both lives and legacies. His rise and fall remain one of R&B's most cautionary tales, one that future generations will look to as a warning of the dangers lurking behind the spotlight. Chaka Khan. Born Yvette Marie Stevens in Chicago in 1953, Chaka Khan rightfully earned the title Queen of Funk through a career that has lasted for more than 5 decades. She first found fame in the 1970s as the fiery lead singer of the band Rufus, where her powerhouse vocals turned tracks like Tell Me Something Good into Grammy-winning hits. When she launched her solo career, she soared even higher, blessing the world with timeless classics such as I'm Every Woman Through the Fire and Ain't Nobody. With an estimated 70 million records sold worldwide and 10 Grammy Awards, Chaka Khan became one of the most celebrated and influential voices in R&B, funk, and soul history. But behind the glamour and the accolades was a woman fighting a relentless personal battle. Chaka admitted that she began experimenting with drugs as a teenager, and by the height of her fame in the 1970s and 1980s, she had fallen into destructive patterns with cocaine and heroin. For years, her addiction threatened to overshadow her music, leaving her trapped in a cycle of dependency that seemed impossible to break. The pressures of constant touring media scrutiny and the need to live up to her larger-than-life image only fueled her struggles. Do you believe fans should separate an artist's music from their personal struggles, or do those struggles become part of how we hear their songs forever? Eventually, Chaka Khan found the strength to confront her demons. In the early 2000s, she entered rehab, leaned on her faith, and embraced her family as anchors in her recovery. She has since spoken openly about the importance of addressing addiction and has become an advocate for recovery and mental health awareness, using her experiences to inspire others. Even in her 70s, Chaka Khan continues to electrify audiences with performances that prove her voice remains as powerful as ever. In 2023, she was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, a long overdue recognition. Chaka Khan's story reminds us that even legends stumble. But true icons rise again stronger and wiser, leaving behind a legacy that is both musical and deeply human. Teddy Pendergrass. Few singers in R&B history embodied sensuality and soul quite like Teddy Pendergrass. Born in 1950 in Philadelphia, Pendergrass began his career as the drummer for Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, before stepping forward as their lead vocalist. His rich baritone turned songs like If You Don't Know Me By Now and The Love I Lost into Class Close the Door, Turn Off the Lights, and Love TKO. At his peak, Teddy was selling out arenas filled with screaming fans, earning the title of the first black male singer to headline for women-only concerts to sleep. But at the height of his fame in 1982, tragedy struck. Pendergrass was involved in a near-fatal car accident that left him paralyzed from the waist down. His life was forever changed. Stripped of the stage dominance he once commanded, he faced not only physical challenges, but also deep emotional struggles. To cope with the trauma, Teddy turned to alcohol and prescription drugs. Though he tried to maintain control, addiction became a quiet battle that mirrored the pain of his new reality. Do you think Teddy's resilience after his accident is more inspiring than his music career itself? Or do both define his legacy equally? Despite unimaginable hardship, Pendergrass refused to give up. He continued recording, delivering albums that resonated with fans who admired his strength as much as his voice. In 1985, he made a triumphant return to the stage at Live Aid in Philadelphia, performing in front of a worldwide audience. His determination to keep singing became a symbol of hope for people living with disabilities. Teddy Pendergrass passed away in 2010 at age 59 from respiratory failure, but his legacy endures. His songs remain cornerstones of R&B, his voice still one of the most recognizable in soul history. Beyond the music, his story is one of resilience, showing that even when life shatters dreams, the spirit of an artist can still shine through. Teddy Pendergrass will always be remembered not only for his passionate ballads, but also for his ability to face tragedy with courage, leaving behind a legacy that is as powerful as his unforgettable voice. Donny Hathaway. Born in Chicago in 1945 and raised in St. Louis, Donny Hathaway was recognized as a child prodigy. By age 3, he was already singing gospel, and by 6, he was performing under the name Little Donnie Pitts. After earning a scholarship to Howard University, Hathaway's career blossomed first as a session musician, then as a solo artist. His voice, rich and emotive, gave life to timeless songs like A Song for You This Christmas, and his duets with Roberta Flack, including Where Is the Love and The Closer I Get to You. His ability to fuse gospel, jazz, and soul made him a unique force in 1970s music. Despite his brilliance, Hathaway was tormented by inner demons. In the early 1970s, he was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia, A. Do you think the music industry should have done more to protect vulnerable talents like Donny Hathaway? Or was his fate tragically inevitable? By 1979, Hathaway was working on new material with Roberta Flack when tragedy struck. On January 13th of that year, he was found dead outside his New York hotel room in what was ruled a suicide. He was just 33 years old. The news devastated the music world, cutting short a career that promised even greater heights. Even though his life ended far too soon, Donny Hathaway's influence has only grown. Artists from Alicia Keys to John Legend cite him as an inspiration, and his songs remain fixtures in both holiday playlists and soul collections. His work transcends time, filled with a raw honesty that continues to touch listeners across generations. Donny Hathaway's story is one of genius and pain of a man whose music soared even as his spirit struggled to survive. His legacy is both a cautionary tale about the cost of untreated mental illness and a lasting reminder of the healing power of song. Tammy Terrell, born Thomasina. Winifred Montgomery in Philadelphia in 1945. Tammy Terrell showed remarkable talent from an early age. She signed her first record deal as a teenager and by the mid-1960s had joined Motown Records in Ain't No Mountain High Enough, Your Precious Love, and You're All I Need to Get By In. But behind the stage lights, Tammy's life was filled with pain. She suffered from chronic migraines that would later be diagnosed as the first signs of a brain tumor. In 1967, during a performance with Marvin Gaye in Virginia, she collapsed on stage, shocking fans and colleagues. She underwent 8 brain surgeries, the Do you believe Tammy's courage to perform despite her illness makes her one of the most inspiring figures in Motown history? Her resilience was extraordinary. Even as her health deteriorated, she remained a symbol of determination, recording vocals that would later become part of Motown's legacy. Marvin Gaye, devastated by her decline, admitted that watching her suffer changed him both personally and artistically. When Tammy Terrell passed away on March 16, 1970, and 24 years old, the loss was felt across the music industry. Her funeral was attended by countless Motown stars, and Marvin Gaye himself was so grief-stricken that it altered the direction of his career, pushing him toward more introspective works like What's Going On. Though her life was short, Tammy's voice continues to live on. Her songs remain staples of soul and R&B playlists, celebrated by generations who weren't even alive during her time. She left behind not just music, but an example of bravery, passion, and devotion to art in the face of unimaginable challenges. Tammy Terrell's story is a heartbreaking reminder of how fleeting life can be, but also of how art has the power to make even the briefest of lives eternal. D'Angelo. Born Michael Eugene Archer in Richmond, Virginia in 1974, D'Angelo emerged in the mid-1990s as a revolutionary voice in R&B and soul. His debut album, Brown Sugar 1995, introduced a fresh blend of gospel roots, funk grooves, and hip-hop rhythms. Critics hailed him as one of the architects of the neo-soul movement, standing alongside artists like Erykah Badu and Maxwell. With smooth vocals and an intoxicating style, D'Angelo quickly became a household name. His sophomore album, Voodoo 2000, was a landmark, debuting at #1 on the Billboard 200 and winning a Grammy for Best R&B Album. The single untitled How Does It Feel? But fame became a double-edged sword. The pressure to live up to his new image overwhelmed him. Coupled with the scrutiny of the media, D'Angelo began to withdraw, battling alcoholism and substance abuse. His once steady career spiraled as he avoided interviews, canceled performances, and disappeared from the spotlight. For fans, his silence was deafening. Rumors swirled about his struggles, arrests for DUI and drug possession, and long battles with addiction. Do you think the pressure of being labeled a sex symbol destroyed D'Angelo's artistry, or did it force him to rebuild on his own terms? For nearly 14 years, D'Angelo was missing from the mainstream stage. Many believed his career was over. Yet in 2014, he stunned the music world with Black Messiah, the album unlike many of his peers whose battles with addiction ended in tragedy. D'Angelo's story is one of redemption. He turned his pain into artistry, and his comeback showed that even after years in darkness, creativity can light the way forward. His legacy is not only in his timeless songs, but in his refusal to be defined by his lowest moments. D'Angelo remains a symbol of both vulnerability and strength, a reminder that true artistry is not about perfection, but about surviving the storms and still finding a way to sing. Lauryn Hill. Born in East Orange, New Jersey in 1975, Lauryn Hill was the Fugees, a group that blended hip-hop, reggae, and R&B into a fresh, socially conscious sound. Their 1996 album, The Score, sold over 20 million copies worldwide, with hits like Killing Me Softly, Mom, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, 1998, that etched her name into music history. The album won 5 Grammy Awards, Doo-Wop That Thing. X Factor and Everything Is Everything became anthems of love, heartbreak, and empowerment. Yet as her fame skyrocketed, Lauryn Hill began to crumble under the weight of expectation. The media branded her the savior of hip-hop and R&B, while the industry pushed her relentlessly for a follow-up album. Struggling with immense pressure, legal disputes, and mistrust of the music business, Hill stepped away from the spotlight. She became increasingly private, retreating from public life, and at times displaying erratic behavior that fueled speculation about her mental health. Do you think Lauryn Hill's decision to walk away from fame was an act of weakness, or was it the ultimate act of self-preservation? Her troubles deepened with legal issues. In 2013, she served a 3-month prison sentence for tax evasion, further tarnishing her once spotless reputation. She also faced criticism for late or canceled concerts, leaving some fans questioning her commitment. Yet through it all, her influence never waned. Younger artists like Beyoncé, Adele, and Drake have cited her as an inspiration proof that her brief but brilliant career changed the trajectory of modern music. Lauryn Hill's story is not one of drug-fueled collapse, but of a different kind of addiction. The unbearable weight of fame and the desire to control her own narrative. She remains an enigmatic figure, a legend whose masterpiece continues to inspire even as her personal struggles keep her at arm's length from the spotlight. Her legacy lies in both her triumph and her retreat. Lauryn Hill showed the world that a single album can change music forever, and sometimes walking away is the loudest statement an artist can make. Doris Troy, born Doris Elaine Higginson in the Bronx, New York in 1937. Doris Troy grew up singing gospel in church before pursuing a career in secular music. She broke through in 1963 with the unforgettable hit Just One Look, a song so powerful that it was later covered by the Hollies' Linda Ronstadt and countless others. Her voice carried both strength and vulnerability, making her one of the rising stars of the 1960s soul era. Moving to the UK in the late 1960s, she found new opportunities working with legendary acts like the Rolling Stones, George Harrison, and Pink Floyd. Her versatility made her a sought-after session vocalist, and she left her imprint on iconic recordings beyond her own catalog. But behind the studio magic, Doris faced a painful reality. The pressures of maintaining a career in a demanding industry took a toll on her personal life. Friends and colleagues noted her struggles with drug use, particularly during the height of her career in the 1970s. Addiction clouded her opportunities and weighed heavily on her health, pulling her away from the consistency needed to fully capitalize on her talent. Do you think Doris Troy would be remembered as one of soul's greatest if addiction hadn't dimmed her potential? Still, Doris Troy refused to let her demons completely silence her. She performed on Broadway in the autobiographical musical Mama, I Want to Sing. Despite her efforts, her health continued to decline. In 2004, Doris Troy passed away at the age of 67 from emphysema, leaving behind a legacy that was both inspiring and tragic. She was more than a one-hit wonder. She was a true talent whose voice helped shape the sound of soul music in its golden era. Her life stands as both a warning and a testament. Addiction may have dimmed her career, but it could never erase the power of her artistry. For those who know her work, Doris Troy remains a soulful reminder that behind every hit song is a human story, one of triumph, struggle, and resilience. Bobby Brown. Born in Boston in 1969, Bobby Brown was only 9 years old when he co-founded the group New Edition of Candy Gear and Cool It Now. The group skyrocketed to fame. But Brown's rebellious spirit quickly clashed with the group's clean image. In 1985, he left to pursue a solo career, and what followed was both groundbreaking and chaotic. His second album, Don't Be Cruel, 1988, sold more than 12 million copies worldwide, producing 5 top 10 singles, including Every Little Step and the anthem, My Prerogative. For a time, Bobby Brown was the undisputed king of New Jack Swing, but success came with a dangerous edge. Brown developed a reputation as the bad boy of R&B, embracing a lifestyle filled with fast money parties and drugs. His addiction to crack cocaine and alcohol began in his youth and escalated during his peak fame. Arrests for drug possession, DUI, and disorderly conduct piled up, painting a picture of an artist unable to control his vices. His volatile marriage to Whitney Houston only added fuel to the fire as both battled addiction, publicly becoming tabloid fixtures in the 1990s and early 2000s. Do you think Bobby Brown's wild image made him a bigger star, or did it destroy what could have been an even greater legacy? Despite his personal chaos, Brown occasionally showed glimpses of redemption. He entered rehab multiple times, often vowing to turn his life around for the sake of his children. While his career never returned to its late 80s heights, songs like On Our Own from the Ghostbusters 2 soundtrack and his reunions with New Edition kept his name alive in the industry. In later years, Bobby Brown faced devastating personal losses, including the deaths of Whitney Houston in 2012 and their daughter Bobby Christina in 2015, both connected to substance abuse. These tragedies forced him to reflect on the cost of addiction and fame. Amy Winehouse. Born in London in 1983, Amy Winehouse was a rare phenomenon, a British singer-songwriter whose voice carried the grit of jazz, the ache of soul, and the edge of R&B. Her breakthrough came with From 2003, but it was her second album, Back to Black 2006, that turned her into an international icon. Selling over 16 million copies, the album earned her 5 Grammy Awards in a single night in 2008, making her the first British woman to achieve that milestone. Tracks like Rehab, You Know I'm No Good, Love is a Losing Game. This yet behind her extraordinary talent was a woman at war with herself. Amy battled alcohol and drug addiction for much of her adult life. Her refusal to go to rehab, immortalized in her hit single, became tragically symbolic of her real struggles. Friends and colleagues described cycles of sobriety and relapse, with paparazzi capturing her most vulnerable moments on the streets of London. The relentless media scrutiny only worsened her condition, turning her private demons into public spectacle. Do you think the media's obsession with Amy Winehouse's downfall accelerated her tragic end? Or was it an inevitable result of her lifestyle? Amy's struggles often spilled onto the stage. Cancelled concerts, slurred performances, and hospitalizations became increasingly common in her final years. Despite support from her family and interventions from her management, the grip of addiction remained strong. On July 23, 2011, Amy Winehouse was found dead in her Camden home from alcohol poisoning. She was only 27 years old. Her death shocked the world not only because of her young age, but because her music had already proven timeless. Even in her pain, Amy gave voice to millions who knew heartbreak, longing, and vulnerability. Posthumously, Back to Black re-entered charts and became the UK's best-selling album of the 21st century, at the time reaffirming her enduring influence. Amy Winehouse's legacy is bittersweet, an artist whose brilliance was inseparable from her struggles. She left behind a small but powerful catalog that continues to inspire singers across genres. Though her flame burned out too quickly, its light remains unforgettable, reminding us of both the beauty and fragility of genius. Marvin Gaye. Born in Washington, D.C. in 1939, Marvin Gaye became one of the most important and influential figures in R&B and soul history. Nicknamed the Prince of Motown, he gave the world classics like What's Going On, Sexual Healing, Let's Get It On, and Ain't That Peculiar. His smooth tenor voice and fearless artistry allowed him to push boundaries, blending soul with messages about war, poverty, the environment, and love. What's Going On, 1971 in particular, is hailed as one of the greatest albums ever recorded, earning a place at the very top of Rolling Stone's list of the 500 Go. Yet Marvin's brilliance came with a heavy shadow. By the mid-1970s, his life was spiraling due to a growing dependence on cocaine. Addiction exacerbated his struggles with depression, paranoia, and volatile relationships. Financial troubles, including a costly divorce, only deepened his reliance on drugs. Friends recalled how his once radiant spirit dimmed under the weight of both fame and substance abuse. Do you think Marvin Gaye's addictions destroyed his genius? Or did his pain fuel the powerful music that still resonates today? Marvin tried to rebuild. In the early 1980s, he staged a comeback with Midnight Love 1982, featuring the global hit Sexual Healing. The single earned him 2 Grammy Awards and introduced him to a new generation of fans. Yet behind the scenes, his battles raged on. Living with his parents in Los Angeles, he grew increasingly unstable, clashing violently with his strict religious father. On April 1, 1984, just one day before his 45th birthday, Marvin Gaye was shot and killed by his father during a heated argument. The news devastated the world. Fans mourned not only the loss of a legend, but the tragic circumstances that cut his life short. Marvin Gaye's story is both inspirational and heartbreaking. His music gave a voice to the voiceless, and his artistry continues to influence generations of singers from Prince to John Legend. Yet his struggles with addiction and inner turmoil remind us that even icons are human, fragile, and vulnerable. His life ended in tragedy, but his songs remain eternal, echoing with both joy and sorrow. Whitney Houston. Born in Newark, New Jersey in 1963, Whitney Houston was destined for greatness. The daughter of gospel singer Cissy Houston and cousin of Dionne Warwick. Whitney grew up surrounded by music. With her 1985 self-titled debut album, she became an instant sensation, selling over 25 miles. Throughout her career, she sold more than 200 million records and I Will Always Love You. Greatest love of all, I Wanna Dance with Somebody. Her voice, powerful, pure, and angelic, earned her the title, The Voice. She won 6 Grammy Awards, 2 Emmy Awards, and 22 American Music Awards for. But behind the dazzling success was a painful reality. By the late 1990s, Whitney had fallen into the grip of drug addiction. Cocaine, marijuana, and prescription drugs became part of her daily life, compounded by her tumultuous marriage to Bobby Brown. Her once flawless live performances began to falter, and interviews revealed a woman struggling to maintain her image while addiction consumed her. Public appearances grew increasingly erratic, overshadowing her artistry. Do you think Whitney Houston's downfall was caused more by personal choices or by the unrelenting pressures of fame and toxic relationships? Despite multiple attempts at rehab, Whitney could not fully escape her demons. In the 2000s, she tried to stage comebacks, including her 2009 album I Look to You, which debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200. For a moment, it seemed her voice and spirit were returning. But the grip of addiction proved relentless. On February 11, 2012, just one day before the Grammy Awards, Whitney Houston was found dead in a Beverly Hills hotel bathtub. The coroner ruled her death an accidental drowning with heart disease and cocaine use listed as contributing factors. She was only 48 years old. Whitney's passing sent shockwaves across the globe. Tributes poured in from fellow artists and fans who grew up with her music. Her voice, once described as a national treasure, was gone, but her influence remains unmatched. Whitney Houston's story is both triumphant and tragic. She reached heights few could ever dream of, yet addiction cut her life short. Still, her songs continue to uplift, reminding the world why she will forever be remembered as one of the greatest voices in history. Addiction has stolen too many of R&B's brightest voices, leaving us to wonder how much greater their legacies could have been without those battles. From Whitney Houston's haunting decline to Marvin Gaye's tragic end, these stories remind us that genius and pain often walk hand in hand. But should we celebrate their music without confronting the destruction drugs brought into their lives? Or can both truths exist side by side? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Legends of Black Excellence for more untold stories that challenge how we see our icons.